Hello and welcome to today's session, Virtual AmeriCorps Member Marketing and Recruitment. I'm glad to have you with us today as we talk about the ways that your VISTA project currently works to attract VISTA applicants and how you can gather great ideas and suggestions from other attendees of today's session. Marketing and recruitment are essential and have a major impact on who expresses interest in and applies to your VISTA project. Today we're going to focus our attention on ways to do that remotely and electronically. I'm Eric Powell, and I'm an AmeriCorps VISTA training specialist at AmeriCorps headquarters in Washington, D.C. I happily served as a VISTA member and a VISTA leader, and today I'll be hosting and facilitating the large group discussion along with chat activities and the question and answer session at the end of today's session. Looking at today's agenda, we're going to start with talking about effective marketing and recruitment. We'll then briefly mention the phases of recruitment. We'll have community conversation with all of us here together. We'll then break out into small groups to go into a little bit more depth about virtual marketing and recruitment. Finally, we'll conclude with giving you some tips, recommendations, and resources, ask you to complete a session evaluation, and we'll answer some of your questions. This information is not new. Marketing involves promoting your positions and getting the word out about your opportunities. Recruitment is all-encompassing and includes attracting applicants and taking them through the process of applying, interviewing, and preparing to serve. But how do you do this effectively and virtually? Well, to start, we've been told that for some people, just hearing the word recruitment makes them feel anxious and stressed out because it is so involved in so much work. So let's just go ahead and address the elephant in the room that we know is there but just don't want to deal with. You already know that marketing and recruitment each involve quite a bit of work and time, whether you are the sole recruiter or part of a team. If you realize that something's not working, you try again and you adjust because there are general ideas to keep in mind and you want to find what fits the needs of your project the best. Positively thinking, what motivates and energizes you? What and where is your passion? Most likely, similar things are to be of interest to potential applicants. We also know that communication is essential in a successful relationship, even a virtual one, as well as in marketing and recruitment. So let's embrace it. Simply put, recruitment is a process of establishing and trying to build a relationship with potential applicants. So you'll want to be open and honest as you attract individuals and try to sustain that relationship through the recruitment process and the year of service. You're looking for people who may have a passion for the type of service you provide and folks who are committed to making a positive difference. Communication needs you to spread the word and give people the spark they need to be fired up to serve with your VISTA project. So let's not complicate things, but we know that there is work involved. Very simply, marketing and recruitment have communication woven all throughout, and here are some examples. It's about communicating why your project is special and unique. It's about the written communication in your flyers, on your website, and social media, especially in a virtual environment where so many things are done electronically. Keep in mind though, if you do rely on organic social media posts alone, you may not get the results you want. You can sometimes find better results by creating an ad or boosting a post, then strategically targeting who sees the post. And sometimes even a small amount of money can provide a result that an organic post just won't be able to do. It's also about the captivating verbal communication you and your members use when speaking about your VISTA project. It involves the content and delivery of your communication. It even is impacted by the communication through the project goal, the objectives, and the member activities in the VAD. The good news, you've got help. There's a lot of people in this session today, the VISTA team, a lot of sponsors and project staff and leaders. So strike up conversation during your small breakouts, as well as in the Supervisor Cafe discussion forum on the VISTA campus. Utilize resources, materials, and other information that you find on the VISTA campus and elsewhere. As we have the mindset of virtual marketing and recruitment on our minds, you will want to focus on that as we look at the phases of recruitment so that you can think of ways to enhance your work in this virtual environment. We're going to show you briefly 6 steps to recruitment, and these may be familiar to you, and obviously that you'll want to break down very specific tasks within each step. To effectively recruit, whether in person or virtually, you need to do several things. You start with a plan. Why? It helps you see where you're going, factor in possible obstacles along the way, and it helps you acknowledge what resources and other things that you have. Don't forget the resources can be physical resources, financial, electronic, human, etc. It also helps you see what's missing and what you need. Your plan should factor in all possibilities, especially as some of you mentioned you're still doing in-person recruiting, some of you are doing virtual marketing, some are doing both. You want to make sure that whatever you're planning for is included in your detailed plan. And then make sure to share your draft plan with a few people and get feedback from your VISTA project director, current AmeriCorps members or leaders, and even someone who doesn't know anything about your VISTA project or VISTA in general, because sometimes an outsider's perspective can be extremely valuable. So next, you market and advertise your positions. You want to think about who's your target audience and do you have more than one? What skills do you want and need in your applicants? In your virtual marketing, what active verbs and captivating language are you using? Who internal to your VISTA project and organization, as well as external, will you have provide feedback on your wording? And then where do you plan to market? There's so many places online, websites, blogs, all sorts of places you can market. So where do you plan to market depending on the type of applicant you want? And again, these are just questions to get you thinking about your specific VISTA project and your recruitment needs and marketing needs, especially during this virtual time. We know that screening is more than just a simple background check because every point of contact you have with the applicant allows you to screen them for many things, including the quality of their application in terms of how well they write and how much detail and content they provide to help you learn more about them. The effectiveness of the applicant's communication, such as emails, as well as verbally over the phone or on video calls. Simple things such as the language and words used by the applicant and their body language in the interview, especially if you're doing a video interview, you'll be able to see how they're reacting and acting, makes a big difference. Next, information you glean from reading and possibly contacting their references. And also screening, of course, does involve background and sex offender checks, as well as other screening your VISTA project may do. So next, especially if you're doing video interviews, how will you structure your interview? These questions and tips, among others, may come to mind. And given that you're probably doing given that you're probably doing interviews virtually, are you going to give logistics and opening comments at the beginning to set the applicant at ease so that they know if your eyes go from one screen to another, you're just letting them know that you're looking at your notes? We want to acknowledge that as well as mention that if we have any technical challenges during the interview, you'll want to work through them and let the applicant know to just rejoin. Also, make sure that you give ample time to planning the virtual interview because just as it can be extremely uncomfortable and awkward for the applicant, it can also be very awkward for you and other people on the interview panel. Take time to practice the flow and transition from one person asking questions to another and how, if at all, you will acknowledge follow-up questions because it's definitely a different vibe and culture when you're doing an interview virtually and all of the interview panel is not in the same room. After you've finished interviews and given it some thought, you as the VISTA project then select the applicants you want to serve with your VISTA project. You should contact these applicants and let them know that you've selected them, of course pending approval from the AmeriCorps regional office. Use motivational language, maybe even customized language based on interests and skills that you saw in the member application, so that they personally feel welcomed and valued by your VISTA project. You may even want to create a quick email that you can easily copy and paste to send to those applicants who you do not select, either because you don't have enough positions and maybe they're on a wait list, or maybe you just don't feel that they're a good fit. We know that people don't want to hear the word no, but they do want to hear something. And so even if you don't select them, it's a good practice to send them an email to let them know that they're not selected. And something we can't stress enough is the process of engagement. We touched on it briefly, but make sure you keep your candidates engaged. You would not, you would, I can never figure out how to phrase this. You would be surprised at the number of people that drop out or consider dropping out between selection and starting service simply because they don't hear anything from their VISTA project for weeks. They feel that they've been ghosted and left out to dry. So be sure to contact them weekly with a little bit of information each week. Maybe one week you send them history about the organization or the VISTA project. The following week, perhaps send them insight about fun things to do in the community and where they can get a really good cup of coffee. You may even want to send them an email with poverty statistics or set up a video call with them one week just so you can really engage them and keep them interested so they get to meet you and you get to meet them in a more formal setting. Make sure you also send them the specific contact information of their direct VISTA supervisor, the time that they should start service on their first day of service, where they should report, either in person or remotely, etc. Be sure you keep them engaged and be engaging to really show them that you are excited for them to serve with your VISTA project. So let's briefly have a conversation together as we further explore the phases of recruitment and how you can best set your VISTA project up for successful virtual marketing, outreach, and recruitment. We know that there still may be aspects of your marketing and recruitment that your VISTA project is doing in person and in proximity to others. As many people have begun to utilize technology and online resources for various reasons, we're going to ask you to answer this question in the chat. How have you found virtual marketing and recruitment to be different from in-person? And that's the case, of course, if your project is doing virtual recruitment. We know some are still doing in-person. But by virtual, of course, we mean that if you have been focusing on using online platforms and electronic methods of recruitment, be specific as possible because some of your answers may help others in this session. What really makes virtual marketing and recruitment unique? As I'm sure you can guess, we're really starting to get your thoughts together so that you can ascertain how you feel that your VISTA project may have adapted its recruitment style and what opportunities can result from that. So again, in the chat, go ahead and type your answer and make sure you send it to everyone. And we're asking, how, if at all, have you found virtual marketing and recruitment to be different from in person? And I see a couple of responses coming in. I see one that says, it's challenging because you don't know if people are seeing your flyers or reading your messages. That is absolutely true. And some of that is true with in-person marketing as well. But in this case, with virtual marketing, you just, unless you're able to track what websites they clicked on and what they accessed, you just don't know. We've gotten more applicants overall, but fewer from our local area. Okay. And that, again, that could be due to if your project has switched to virtual, maybe you're not reaching as many people, or we know some VISTA projects just do much better recruiting with in-person, word of mouth, local flyers, and maybe they're not as well versed with the virtual marketing and recruitment. So you definitely want to try different areas. And if you're not getting as many applicants, see what else you can do. See if you have current VISTA members or other people in the area who may have ideas as to how to boost your recruitment efforts. And I'll read a couple more. Getting the message to the right platforms where it will have the most impact, such as posting on the returned Peace Corps volunteer website. Absolutely. Taking advantage of websites like that where you can really promote and get your information out there. I also see we have always done virtual recruitment, so not much has changed for us, and that's great. For those of you who, like this individual who has always done virtual recruitment, in the chat, and especially when you go into the breakouts, be sure to share your experience because there are a lot of people on this session who are not familiar with virtual recruitment and could use some assistance. I see some of you say you like virtual recruitment better because it allows you to talk to many people at one time, whether it's on a webinar or a virtual career fair or sending out a blast email to tons of people. Using video on both ends if at all possible, that's great. Because of course, when you're building that relationship and cultivating that connection with the applicant, if they can see you, you can see them, it really helps to bridge that gap and give people a better perspective of seeing you smile and understanding more about your VISTA project and who you are. And finally, I'll read another one. I would love some ideas about VISTA leader recruitment in this virtual world as well. So to that point, if you're a VISTA leader on this call, or if you're a project that has VISTA leaders and you have ideas about recruiting VISTA leaders virtually, feel free to put that in the chat as well. Again, all of this information is ideally set up for you. We want you to get the most out of today's session. So keep these comments coming. There's a lot coming in, and I definitely don't have the time to read all of them, but these are great ideas in terms of advertising, marketing, whether it's in person or virtual. And again, by virtual recruitment, we're talking about not specifically physically in person at a building and having people come to your building. We're talking about virtual recruitment, whether it's promoting your opportunity listing on websites like Indeed or monster.com, or virtual recruitment is electronically sending out flyers, it's putting together blogs or videos. Anything that doesn't involve you physically in person with someone else is how I'm defining virtual recruitment for this session. And I'm sure that a lot of these responses were obvious to you, some may have been new, but again, depending on how your project is structured, you may want to take some notes and adjust because some of these you might be able to adapt for your specific VISTA project. So with the mixed emotions that may exist on the recruitment process, make the most of the time and resources you have. You're undoubtedly excited to have VISTA members serving at and with your VISTA project. So let that joy start even earlier when you're planning, advertising, and recruiting. Your energy levels and sentiment come across in your written and verbal communication, in your body language when you have in-person and virtual interviews, and even in your tone of voice. Use this as a jumping off point to positively propel your performance when posting and promoting your positions. So at this point, we're going to pause the recording. So we're going to quickly give you some tips and resources. When you think about success, some tips are you want to plan, you want to communicate, adapt and adjust your plan, innovate and think about new ways to do things, and of course, smile. These are common sense and things we know you all already do. And as you saw, and you'll see again in the chat, there's a link to a helpful links handout with lots and lots and lots of resources from our marketing outreach and recruitment unit on the VISTA campus, et cetera. At the bottom of that document, there is also some suggested next steps. So hopefully you can download this document and make it useful for you. As a quick reminder, we reviewed a lot today. We talked about effective marketing and recruitment. We covered the phases of recruitment. We had a little bit of a community conversation and talked amongst ourselves as a large group. We then allowed you to engage in small groups and get to know each other. We provided you some tips and resources. And next, we're going to ask you before you leave the session to go to the link that we'll post in a minute in the chat, and please fill out a survey for this session. We truly appreciate your feedback. We read it and think about what you provide for future webinars and sessions. So thank you in advance for your feedback. It only takes a couple minutes, but we do greatly appreciate all of your feedback. And in the final minute we have, I think I have time to answer one question. I don't see any yet. The one question I see is where is the document we just mentioned? So I will post that in the chat and I will also send it out again tomorrow. I will also briefly mention if you do have additional questions about recruitment, certainly you can respond to my email and I will either answer the question or direct you to the right place to get your question answered. Please certainly check the VISTA campus because there's a lot of resources there that can answer your questions. If your question is VISTA project specific about what VISTA member orientations you can recruit for and stuff like that, please check with your AmeriCorps regional office portfolio manager. They'd be able to answer your question. But I don't see any questions in the chat. So at this point, I will go ahead and say thank you very much for attending today's session. Again, we hope it was extremely useful for you. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully you did as well. Thank you as always to our partners at LSI, Jeff Bannis and Steve Gray. Thank you to Barbara Reynolds and Andy King, my editor and support team. And thank you to all of you for joining us today. Happy recruitment. Do us proud. We're excited to see the fruits of your labor and more VISTAs doing the great work that's needed. So thank you very much. This concludes today's session and have a great day.